Russ, you're saying that you like this sequel, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, more than the original.
Yeah, I probably would say I did. I mean, maybe I didn't connect with Tim Burton as much back in the 1980s. And as far as getting older, I really appreciated some of his films, his later films, probably even more so than his original films. I wasn't a huge fan of even Batman, but this one I actually enjoyed.
Really? Russ, you didn't like those Batman movies? They're fantastic. They really combine like the camp and the kitsch, but also the kook and the creepiness, you know, from the 60s Batman through to like early 90s Joker, Jack Nicholson Batman, like Batman movies. I'm really surprised you didn't like those movies. Now we're getting off the track to Beetlejuice Beetlejuice.
No, wait a minute. I didn't say I didn't like them, but Tim Burton as a director, I've really come to enjoy and really like quite a bit over the past few years. Even though it is definitely darker, but it is kind of a refreshing way of looking at it. Also, how he has no problem, I think, like you were saying, with the camp or the kitsch, but yet it still kind of takes us down kind of some of those darker paths that you don't necessarily see in too many films like this.
No, one of the things I enjoy about the Beetlejuice movies is how Tim Burton just unashamedly goes into territory that so often, even in polite company in real life, we don't talk about. The afterlife, the divide between life and death, and whether there is any interaction or not between the two. I also liked about the sequel that it basically did what all sequels do, which is it's another version of the first film, but given it's a couple of decades later, it does a good job of reinventing its own wheel, and there were some good twists and turns in the story that I didn't expect were coming. And I think similar to the first one, Russ, Beetlejuice, played again by Michael Keaton, I'm surprised again that this sequel seems to underuse its title character, and it actually has a lot more time for like Winona Ryder's character, even Catherine O'Hara's. Still, Beetlejuice is kind of sidelined while all these other people are running around trying to work out what on earth is going on between life and death.
The title character, but really he's almost a supporting cast member. I will have to say that with this, the first film and this film, it looks like he's having a ball. Michael Keaton is just going, let me just have a blast with this. I get to do whatever I want and be able to kind of do all the different things and just give these great lines that have been given to him. I'm not going to go into one of the key spoilers of the film, but it was probably one of the best twists of the film that really kind of, I think, lifted this beyond even the original, in the sense that they just really kind of took it down a different path that it wasn't expected, but it was a really good way of kind of going in and introducing kind of a whole new side of this afterlife that maybe you hadn't thought of, especially the introduction of the Soul Train.
I thought it was actually funnier at moments than the original, including another character that played by the actor Justin Theroux, who is basically like an embodiment of sort of the worst of modern masculinity. And I thought it was sensible that Beetlejuice, for the kind of extremes that he might go to, particularly on the sexual front, which the original hinted at much more so, they pull that back in here. Like there's just no strong hint in that direction, which makes total sense.
This definitely has some very confronting elements to it. It's still dealing with the afterlife. It's still dealing with murder and all these other aspects and other ways that horrific ways that people have died in the past. And so just to be aware of that it definitely has some very confronting content as you're kind of going in.
And really, if you're going to see Beetlejuice, you should be expecting to be at least confronted or challenged by what you're going to see.
So again, if you're a Tim Burton fan, if you don't mind that side of it and the horror along with your comedy, as far as in that mix, you'll enjoy this film. But if it's one that you're thinking that, hey, I enjoyed Dumbo, this is not necessarily the one that you'd want to go to follow up after that. But I do want to kind of lean into, as we kind of head towards the end of our time together, this one really goes hard into, I mean, this whole series, if you want to call it a franchise, really looks at the afterlife in so many different ways. I love how it opens the door to the conversation of the afterlife, that there is a spiritual realm, even though God doesn't really get a mention in this film at all. But I think that what we can understand and know is that we can have that discussion. And that's probably what I would really want to encourage people to do after seeing a film like this, is really understanding what you can understand and know about the afterlife, and specifically what we can understand and know from the Bible. Tim Burton's world, not hopeful. I mean, it is gross, and it is not a world that anyone would want to go into. But I think that you don't have to sit there after you leave a film like this if you would really kind of consider that what the Bible has on offer is a very hopeful afterlife, and again, one where you would be following Jesus. But I'm curious, would this be on your watch list, Ben?
It's a yes, Russ, and with the cautions that we've mentioned along the way about the horror comedy and the grisliness and the ghoulishness. But in terms of a sequel that you didn't expect was going to come several decades after, that does improve on some elements of the original, it's a yes.
For me, it would go on the watch list, especially for those of you who are Tim Burton fans. I feel like he's finally got his mojo back, and this one definitely is an opportunity for you to be able to kind of engage with. If you enjoy that style of humor, I think this is one that you'll love. But also for me too, I love the fact that I would be able to have a conversation afterwards about something that really does mean something to me, and that would be our eternal souls. That really is an important conversation to have. But not that this film gives you the answers, but the Bible definitely can, and that's where it really opens the door for me. And so I probably would say yes for the watch list for myself.